Hello, everybody. Welcome to Acquisition IQ Podcast. We're here to talk about the Acquisition Conference as well as interview Jason Jenkins. He's an entrepreneur, 3 times exit, as well as a keynote speaker. And he's also been a part of Simplicity Group, and they've gone through 78 acquisitions.
Yep, that's correct.
And in addition, he's going to be the keynote speaker for ACQUICON, Acquisition Conference, coming to Salt Lake City on March 21st. So right now we're going to talk a little bit about how you create value in building a company that can have a significant impact, but also significant value. So share with us a little bit more of your experience in the M&A field and finance. Yeah,
well, first of all, thanks for letting me be a part of it. I'm real excited to meet everybody out in Salt Lake. It's not too far away. You know, when you think about like building a business, you know, many times as an entrepreneur, you know, it's all about kind of like what's in front of you. You've got this vision or a product or a service that you're trying to solve, you know, your prospects' problems. And on the front side, in all honesty, when I was a younger entrepreneur, I never didn't think about like, well, how do I transition this? How does this become transferable? You know, and I had the opportunity to build a fintech, as you know, and transition that. And if I would have had some of the questions that we're going to talk about, you know, at the event, it would have been very helpful to, you know, expedite that and even see more value of that. But one of the benefits of now going through 78 acquisitions, you know, being on this side in that transition, it's really about the basics, I've come to learn, Nate. Like, what are some of those fundamental things of culture, and how do I set my business up so that it is transferable? Because that's a tough thing for an entrepreneur. Those are the things that I've learned.
Well, we've learned also throughout these interviews and me just interviewing different founders that people are working within their business for so long only to exit on pennies on the dollar because they created a business that was just a job for them.
Correct.
Can you speak to that?
That is kind of what I was referring to, and I see it often where they don't, I mean, just the basics of from accounting to just there's some fundamental things. How do I make this brand transferable? Like, what is it that I do that's high value to that potential buyer that's going to allow them to expand market, scale, things along those lines? And it's being thoughtful. That's where you get more equity from that opportunity, you know, for yourself. And so those are the things that we're going to talk about to be very intentional. And then how do you think about your brand? Like, how do you think about that brand, and how can that brand be supportive, you know, to the potential acquirer? Is it strategic? You know, is it just a pure acquisition? You know, those kind of fundamental things.
One thing I know about you and that we've talked about prior, and me just observing your movements, is the way that you're able to create culture. And you do it through energy, insight, but also the wisdom that you have. And share with me a little bit more on the merger of one company into another company and how you can create a flow that can occur within organizations.
Yeah, I would say that's probably one of the more challenging things, right? So you have this entrepreneur, they built this business 20, 30 years, and they poured their heart and soul into it, and no one's gonna understand, right, that challenge. And now it's being, you know, kind of handed over, and there's a transitionary period of time to that. And so how does everybody win in that? How do you expedite that process? How do you get that culture to shift into a different culture? And it's that entrepreneur, this is a really key thing, it's that entrepreneur trusting that process. And so I like to ask the question, Nate, how do you want to leave? Like, at some point, like you sold this company, you've cashed that check, and it could be a 1-year or a 5-year transition, right, in that taking place. But ultimately, you built this business, which is a part of your legacy, but now there's another aspect to it. How do you plan to leave? And so that is really helping that entrepreneur buy into that, see that, so that they are championing and waving the flag of, let's be honest, of the new owner. And so that takes truth. Mm-hmm. You know, it takes them seeing that. And third is that many of them want to know that their people and their team are going to be taken care of. And so it's just a matter of navigating through that.
Okay, you said you have quite a few different companies in your pipeline.
Yeah,
right?
we do.
And then in addition to that means you've got to go through a lot of companies that you don't want to be a part of your portfolio.
That's correct.
So share with me what makes a good acquisition, and then also what makes a bad acquisition.
One word.
It
is, but it's going to come down to one word: people. At the end of the day, what I've come to learn in doing this journey, 70-something acquisitions later, it's all about the people. Can those great people, good people will find a way to plug into that culture and contribute, and bad people won't. You know what I mean? And that's not a perfect process, because there's the quantifiable aspect of the business, and then there's the other side of that. And so you do your best, measuring the company and the EBITDA, like the multiples. That's kind of a lot of blocking and tackling and putting a deal structure together. But the bigger part to your question is the people and the culture, and are these good people? That's what we look for. And when you find good people, you do everything you can to invest in them, hold on to them, give them a career path and things like that.
What's the definition of a good person?
Wow, do we have enough time on that one? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I want to say it's truth. For me, it's truth, it's integrity. But I think, again, what I've come to learn about building teams is that taking ownership, but the way that I like to lead is I like to lead through trust and respect. I believe at the end of the day, the degree of how much trust and respect is on the team, that is the degree of how far they will go. Right? Think about that in relationships, any relationship. Or what if you only kind of trusted your wife halfway? But like, well, that's about as far as we're going to get. So you have to cultivate that. You have to really create an environment where people feel it's safe to speak the truth, but in a way that's respectful. And so that is truly embodied by the leader or leaders, or it's not. And when it is, I'm telling you, it is an environment that's unstoppable. And so it's a lot of these little things that when you do them right, the good people kind of rise, and I'll be honest, the bad ones kind of go, no, you know what, this is about me. Yeah. And when they realize that it should be about us, and we hear about that, we know that intuitively, like no one's bigger than the team. I kind of like to quote Steve Jobs, where he says, you can go fast by yourself, or we can go far together. I love that. It's one of my favorite quotes he said.
Yeah. Well, we're going to go far together at Acquisition Conference, and Jason, he's spoken in front of thousands. You've led multiple sales teams and organizations from zero to hero, from a big $1 billion exit. And we're excited to have you in the room to highlight your keynote speech, as well as empower us to be better people, but also to learn more about exactly what he knows. So again, guys, if you want to be a part of Acquisition Conference coming to Salt Lake City on March 21st, 2025 to see this gentleman keynote and crush it, as well as the other we've got panel discussions on buy side, sell side, and how to fund your company. So we're really thrilled about that specific conference. Again, if you haven't got your ticket, make sure to do so at ACQUICON.live, and we will see you in the room.